Mark Burlesque.
Mark Burlesque. Jesus.
Welcome to Roll with the Punches. Hey, guess what? Because that's what Melissa calls you, Mark Burlesque.
Really?
Yep, behind
Jesus.
the scenes.
I got called Mark LeBusque the other day. and also Mark LePex, and I'm like, I'm liking that. I'm liking those things. So keep rolling them out to me, people. Thank you.
It's a pretty bloody groovy name, isn't it? Better than Cook.
LeBusque.
Yeah.
It is.
It's very fancy. I don't know if it suits you, though, you big bogan.
It doesn't suit me, because if you look at the way that it's actually spelt, people say LeBusque or LeBusque, and I'm like, LEBUSK, phonetically spell it. And it's like a bogan. It's a bogan's name, but yeah, no, it's fancy. Yeah, Cook. Like
I had trouble saying this the other day. I'm going to have a crack and see if I say it right. I don't think I've ever said it out loud, and the worst thing is I read it as I said it, which messed me up even more. It was for an intro for one of my highly esteemed guests on the podcast who studied at the Massachusetts. Oh, Hugo.
No, hang on a minute. 1 second.
Hey.
Fucking Billy, the little bitch, little ringleading. She used to be the youngest one that got all the attention. Now she's the second youngest one that gets fuck all attention.
Oh, well, fuck.
Sorry about that. I'm back.
That's right. Massachusetts.
Yeah.
You know why I can say it now? Because people sent me a whole bunch of different phonetically correct spelling attempts. So in my head, I've got it spelled properly. But that's a very hard word to say when you try and read it and you've never pronounced it out loud before.
There's many words like that. I actually podcasted with a couple of Aboriginal people, First Nations people this week, and to say they're the country that they either live on or they're born on, and it's like, just make sure you get it right. I asked them for the phonetic stuff because you don't want to get that stuff wrong.
No, it's bloody hard, but for me, it really highlighted the gap, the enormous chasm between the intellect of my guest and me. Because not only did I not study there, but I couldn't even pronounce the bloody name of the place.
Well, I've been to Boston, Massachusetts. I've actually been to Cambridge. I went to Harvard.
Oh, wow.
I know. Fancy letting me into Harvard.
Bloody hell. Wow. I went to Ulverston High School. That's where I went.
I went to Mildura High School, and I quite like that. By the way, happy World Teachers Day today to all the teachers out there. And because there's a World Day every day, there's something going on. There's actually a World Toilet Day, but let me quickly talk about World Teachers Day, because I have Mr. Smith in Mildura South Primary School and Mr. O'Toole in Mildura High School would be two people who absolutely influenced me being where I am today. So thank you to all the teachers out there. I think you get a little bit underappreciated at times.
I don't want to thank them. I want to apologise for making their lives probably harder than they needed to be.
I would imagine that would have been the case. I could see you sitting there with your bloody school dress on, and you just sort of. I
don't wear a school dress.
No, well, okay. Were you wearing knickers?
Actually, in primary school, you know I don't wear knickers, Mark. We talked about it last time.
Jesus. Harp said you couldn't say that on a podcast.
Harps doesn't know what you can say on a podcast. In my primary school, I went to a private Catholic primary school, and I wore a tunic.
Wow.
But then when I got to high school, and it was all bets were off because I went to public high school, the wheels fell off, and I thought, I'll just wear jeans then. So I just rocked up in jeans and sometimes a school shirt.
Were you the only one that got around in jeans?
No, we all did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Maybe we used to get caught back in the 80s, or late 70s, actually, when I was at bloody year 7 or year 8. I was in the late 70s. they used to check to see that we had like proper Barter Scout shoes on, rather than you used to try and get by the black sneakers because they were better to kick the footy in, and they'd come around the room and they'd check up on you like, you know what? Get a fucking life. Fancy worrying about that. Don't worry about educating us. Here I was before talking my teachers up. Now I'm bashing them, but don't worry about educating us.
Yeah, you've just torn them down. On
these
aren't
the role model. These are the ones. When you have a bad manager and you learn from your bad manager as much as you learn from your good one. I think it's the same with the teachers. Was the compliance freaks who would come around just to have a moment where they could go, "We got you."
I reckon there was a few teachers at my high school that got a rough old trot with some of the uncouth classes. And look, I was in some of those classes. We had a teacher. I remember her. It was an English class, and she stormed out of the room and burst like crying. And I remember this full classroom of students. Maybe it was year 8 or 9. Old enough to know better. Like that's just like when I look back now as an adult, the compassion and empathy I feel for that woman. And she came back in, like whatever was going on in her life, she came back in after, 15 or 20 minutes, and then she burst into tears again. And I just feel like, and I remember that another teacher in the same year had a nervous breakdown at school. Jeez. And he left, and our science class wasn't allowed to dissect mice, which I was at the time quite, I wanted to do that, but our class wasn't allowed to because the whole class was too uncouth to be trusted with animal bloody... And
sharp implements as well, no doubt.
It was bad enough trying to get us on a Bunsen burner every now and then.
I used to love the Bunsen burner, turn it right up, see if you could hit the roof with the flame.
But I was like your worst nightmare as a student, because I remember like maths, I was quite good at it, good enough to get great marks quick, like it just landed with me, but I didn't pay attention. So I'd disrupt the class, get everyone else in trouble, get in trouble myself, but then come time for tests, I'd nail it, and the teachers would be like, "Oh, she doesn't deserve these marks."
They'd hate that.
Yes, but you know what? On the upside for them, if they're listening, I never retained any of the knowledge, so I'm still stupid.
Well, see, this is the other thing too with school, which I have an issue with, is that like there's got to be more to being successful than being able to retain knowledge, because some people can really retain knowledge well. I can, because I can remember every number plate of every car I've had, but that's not all that useful for me today. But I used to not be great at retaining knowledge in exams. But back in my time, that was what it was. If you could go in that 3 hours and nail the retention of knowledge, you'd do really well. And if you were a smart person but couldn't retain knowledge, you'd actually look like someone who wasn't as smart by the time your marks came out. So I think it's changing, but yeah, I don't know.
I do a lot of reflecting this year. Like the last 2 years for me of sitting in these conversations, talking to extremely smart people and just being so incredibly focused. I'm doing a lot of reflecting on my operating system and how I learn and how my biggest thing used to be, I love speaking and teaching and holding workshops and giving knowledge and ideas and strategies. But my thing used to be I could never remember the science. I could never remember the term. And I used to be really insecure about that. Like, I want to teach this and I've learned this stuff. By the time it goes to repeating it, I can't remember the terms. I can't remember the names. I forget everything. But then in these conversations, I'm like, my brain and knowledge and understanding and communication skills have all evolved incomparatively. I can't even remember I'm just different and I don't know how. And it's just interesting. Like, I feel like I've discovered a new person inside of me. It's a bit weird, isn't it?
It is a bit weird, but it's also practice and it's also confidence. And like, because I do that potty on a Friday, which is just my 4S one, which I call my solo short, sharp, self-indulgent podcast. And I don't even start with a topic. Like, I'll just turn up and I'll go, righto. So like, for instance, this week I had an experience where I became the student in the room where I was the teacher, and I spoke for 17 minutes. And I think we give ourselves, and everybody does this, your listeners will do this, we don't give ourselves enough credit for what we're capable of. And I know you said to me that you'd been listening to some of them and you were going to do them, which is cool. I just find that I like the adrenaline rush and a bit of the pressure that comes with, like, speaking for 17 to 20 minutes is a long time.
Yep.
When you think about it, like, how do I get through it? But when you can, I think, rummage through my 55-year-old brain, I'll find stuff in there. And I think it's all about story, Tiff. And I think you'd have a lot of stories in there. You're very good with story and storytelling, and you don't need to have and none of us need to have the fancy dialogue and the fancy lingo. In fact, I think people these days are getting sick and tired of hearing the fancy stuff, and they just want to hear it in simple terms. So maybe it's because we're simpletons a little bit that we can actually tap into that stuff, into that story, rather than having to say the fancy words like Massachusetts.
Do you know what? This is my latest challenge or thing that I'm exploring how to better harness, or what's causing it. When I'm out and about or engaged in different, so when I'm out walking, just mindlessly walking, and then also when I'm driving to and from, or especially from boxing training, this is a big one for me because it's like it fires up everything in my system and my brain. But when I'm out walking, I can have these really clear ideas and think, I want to talk about that. That's what I want to talk about. When I walk into this studio, sit down, there's just all this noise and then nothingness. It's like, what was that thing? And I can't always grasp exactly. And, when I'm walking, it's profound and it's clear and it's like, that is a really good little topic to have a bit of a banter on. What is the go with that?
That's what notes are for in your phone.
Yeah, but even sometimes I'll read those notes and I still have lost the essence of
maybe because your mind is. I'm not qualified in this area at all, but I'm thinking maybe because your mind is resting at that stage. Like you said, there's a bit of mindfulness and there's a bit of mind-numbing nothingness going on. Perhaps you've created space in your mind for those things to come out. Whereas, because when you said I'm trying another thing now, I'm like, fucking, which one of the 350 things is it that you're trying today, Tiff? Because last time we spoke, you're like, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Oh, I might try that thing you said too, Mark. And I'm like, how about you fucking try one thing at a time? So maybe, just maybe, as you remove the busyness of your mind, because your mind is super busy.
Yep.
That it creates space for you to go, there's a thing that it's actually been, if I look at it like this, like it's a room full of cluttered shit. All right. Yes. And then what's happened is that you've had time to be able to get through the 17 layers of clutter. And in the 18th layer, you found this thing, which was like, wonder where that. Remember, I've been looking for that, and then all of a sudden I came across it. So maybe you slowing down in those moments is that. And then when you get back into the studio and you're going like a cut cat again, well, all of a sudden you've forgotten that thing, even if you've written it down. Yeah. I go for this. I do this. I write down bullet points for today. We wing it, and we always do. But I wrote down Human Manager Academy, teacher as student, gratitude, the power of doing the work, and outsourcing. And I went, we can talk about those things at some stage along the way. So just put some bullet points down and sit back and allow your mind to wander off into those topics.
Been a lot of mind observation. And when I watch it, like it's weird. I don't know, like there was once when I could, like, to be able to observe your mind in the moment, I think is something that doesn't come naturally. And I've just found, after years and years of self-management, self-awareness and harnessing the mind and harnessing the body and boxing training and all of the things, the experience that I'm having recently is very different and a lot more. I'm having a lot more clarity. I'm like, I'm noticing in the moment that my mind is doing this, and I'm a little bit detached. Like I'm allowing myself to be detached from it, and I notice myself blanking out in the middle of, even in boxing. Like I've had 3 years off competing, and 3 years off really training with my coach. Once a week, I'm going out to train with him. So we're back into that, harnessing the body and the mind and potential and this discomfort and all of the things. But sometimes when he's telling me something, I now notice when I'm listening, and then oh, my mind grabs something, goes up into a story, has a bit of a think about things, and then I come back and I'm like, you weren't in the room just then, were you listening? And I wonder how often I've done that. So I just finished doing some sparring this morning with a mate, and I was just watching. I was trying to just be really present as to where does my mind... Because when your mind goes for a moment, you might unconsciously realise, but what happens then is your eyes move, your balance moves, you lose this microsecond and you get lost, and then there's a reaction. There's this reaction to it. It's very micro,
Yep.
but the effects are very macro. And so my focus was just like focus on where your mind and your attention is the whole time, and no matter what happens, just know where your attention is. And gee, it was a different experience.
That sounds really challenging to do because I don't know, there's lots of stats, but I hear between 65.5 and 95,000 thoughts per day.
Okay, I'm going to correct you on that note. We only know this recently. Harps did some very extensive research on that, and he found, I can't remember the exact number, but there's papers stating that it's actually been proven to be about, I think it was between 6,000 and 9,000. So but still a lot. But still a lot. Yeah.
Well, papers that have proven that. That just gets the hair up on the back of my neck straight away when someone says papers have proven that, because I'm like, well, fucking which papers are they? Because the ones that I read said more, and then someone told me it was 95 because I said 65. And it's funny that what is right? What is the fact?
Yeah.
And I know he will be Dr. Harper at some stage.
Yeah. Well, when he told me that, I actually asked up and said, well, hang on. Fucking how and who? Who said that, and how are they measuring? What's their metric of measurement? Like, oh, this thing happens in the brain, and that. Like, who's to say that's a thought?
The other thing that's interesting, exactly. The other thing that's interesting with that is that they say about 90% of them are recurring thoughts. So it's a thought you've had already, and then the others are new thoughts, and then 80% of them are negative. So
but what's a thought when it's not conscious? Like when you start to go, well, a thought is a conscious thing, and then I think. And a belief isn't necessarily common, but can a thought be unconscious? A belief can. We can hold beliefs and not be really conscious of them.
Jesus, I didn't have this written down that we were going to talk about. Can a thought be unconscious?
Can a thought be because when like
my sense is I don't know. Again, I don't know the science on this, but I'm thinking I think you can pull an unconscious thought into your consciousness. And perhaps you can go the other way as well. I don't know. Someone will be listening to this going, this bloke's a fucking idiot. He doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. But remember, I went to even
pronounce Massachusetts, so don't ask me.
So, geez, we're getting heavy here. If I just think about how it works, like there's times when you're just sitting there and all of a sudden, like the most random thought will come into my head from 30 years ago. So what happened there? Like, did something happen in the moment that reminded me of something? Or then there's another time, like you said before, I had the best intentions of turning up and being able to talk about this thing that came into my mind, and I went blank. So I think the answer to that question is I don't know. I don't know.
Good answer. I wish more people would say that.
And they should, because we're supposed to be, we're supposed, I got called an expert in the room. You're the expert. And I said, well, what the fuck does that mean? Does that mean I know everything? Because I don't. And there's a lot of experts getting around, and there's a lot of thought leaders getting around as well. I find that as an interesting term.
Thought leader.
How do you lead thought? Like, is it fucking you the person at the front with the most thoughts? Or I don't get that. But anyway, that's.
I just want to be a thought provoker.
Yes, provoking with purpose is something that I like to offer my clients. I call it that very deliberately, provoking with purpose. And I think it's got to be purposeful. They may not believe that at the time when they're getting provoked. They'll be like, fucking lay off us, will you, mate? In your black T-shirt with your fancy words written on the front of it and your new fucking 1980s hairdo that you got going at the moment.
Very suave, by the way.
Well, are you going to like this? The last two times when I've been getting judged I get my clients to judge me in this little activity they do. Better at Dancing with the Stars or Survivor, I ask them. I've had a couple of Patrick Swayze's lately. It's been like, and every time I hear it, I just think of you, Tiff. There you go. The thought comes into my mind. It's like, there's Tiff. That's Tiff. And thinks I look like Patrick Swayze, but I've got to say, maybe maybe an uglier version of him.
For everyone listening, what I might do is dig out one of the photos that you've posted where I've gone, bloody hell, he looks like Patrick Swayze. I might dig that out for the cover photo because there are, occasionally you'll throw one up and I'll just, I'll go weak at the knees, Mark.
Oh, Jesus. Well, shit. Now, look, can we get on to another topic now? What about the power of doing the work? Because you talk a lot about this. I know Harps does, and I do a little bit, but I always say to people who come into the room with me right at the start, you will get out of this what you put into it. It will be absolutely it'll be a portion of what you do there. And they're like, yeah. And I saw it this week and everyone did the work and it's like, fuck me, that's big. So what do you reckon it is that makes some people do the work, as in look inwards? I'm talking about looking inwards now, really doing the hard work of looking inwards versus perhaps others who scratch the surface.
Oh, big question. Funny, tomorrow, which by the time people hear this will be not tomorrow, it'll be in the past, but tomorrow my solo episode is called Showing Up Is Not Enough, and it's me having a rant on the fact that showing up is not enough. So it's about the doing of the work and what that means. It's a big question because I think there's a lot of layers to it, and I guess when I coach people and do my group coaching, it's a big part of what I talk about because only you know if you're doing the work.
Absolutely.
But it's why I'm a big advocate of training or something physical in your life because it's a playground to see it. It's a playground to actually, build that model of what's going on and see it and build some belief around it, and then that just flows out into your life. Like that's what boxing is for me.
I just had one of those stupid thoughts that just came from the back of my head that we talked about to the front of my head.
The other 7,999 parted ways, and this one just slid out.
It did. It dropped down the chute and it sat right in front of me. And it's this. It says, in order for you to do the work, wouldn't you first have to be the work?
All right, elaborate on that.
So we're human beings, but we are so caught up in doing stuff. Look, I've said it, do the work, but I reckon before you do the work, you've got to make a choice of how you're going to be. So I could be all in. I call it comfortably uncomfortable, getting to the edge of uncomfortably uncomfortable. I'm shitting myself a bit, but I've chosen to be that. And now I'm going to do the work rather than I turn up, I'm just going to do the work. And then all of a sudden, all of this emotion comes to me. I'm terrified or I'm elated or I'm full of whatever it might be. I think the people that do the work, and I hadn't thought of this before, they choose to be the work before they do the work.
Yeah, and here's another conversation I've had with people kind of around that is what you're saying you want to change actually what you want to change? Or is there, now we're going into those unconscious beliefs, or could that be, it's not is it, you probably won't know, but you might want to get curious about it. Is it just another way for you to beat up and reaffirm your unworthiness? Do you really want to need to lose weight or get this thing or make this much money? Do you actually want those things, or you saying you want them reaffirms that you don't have them and you're not enough and you're unworthy, and that's your place of self-belief and weird kind of comfort?
Yep. I'm going to chuck something in here because I was fortunate to first of all, be exposed to this thing called immunity to change about 15 years ago when I was in a development program that was being run by a guy called Dr. Peter Fullerton. And then I loved it so much I went and became credited to run it by going to Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, there we go.
It just keeps rolling back through here.
Yeah.
And so Robert Keegan and Lisa Leahy have created this tool, framework, whatever we want to call it. And what I learned a lot of things to what you said before. We have two immune systems. We have a physical one that's there to protect us. And and with really good intention there to protect us. But at times, even our physical immune system, whilst it thinks it's acting in good intent, it's actually working against us. Example could be a autoimmune disease or a what are we saying? An organ transplant where it rejects, even though it doesn't. It think it's doing the right thing, but it's not. Now, then there's a second immune system which I was introduced to called the cognitive immune system, and this one really encourages you to be its best friend. And back to what you said before about, I really want to change on something. I really want to be this. I want to be that. This thing is actually going, but why? Because if you do that, bad things are going to happen to you. And you might have tried it before. Here's a couple of good examples. I hear women in the room a lot say this: I want some time for myself. And I'm sure you'll have a lot of listeners who will relate to this. I seem to be doing everything for everybody else in my workplace, if it's in my family, whatever it might be. And I want some more self-time. And then this little cognitive immune system turns up in the process you go through, Tiff, and it says, yeah, but people are going to think you're selfish. So why would you do that? And for blokes, which is an interesting one, a lot of times blokes say I want to be fitter. And really what I want to be fitter means is I want to drink less piss. Yes. And then the little cognitive immune system turns up as you go through the process, and it says, yeah, but if you don't drink,
what are the lads going to say?
That's it. And guess what? The lads won't invite you to anything anymore, and then you'll become a loner and you'll be at home playing your fucking banjo. So, like I've got here, sitting here. So what's going on there with what you said before? And I know this because I do this work every week. What we've got to do is we've got to start to understand that, that time I tried to get fitter, and the time I tried to eat less, and the time that I tried to speak up in a meeting or whatever it was, there's this little uninvited guest who turns up when it's least wanted and goes, don't you speak up, Tiff, or someone's going to think you're stupid. So we are fighting this 24/7. And what you've got to start to do is not make this thing your friend, but allow it in, and then have a conversation with it to go, you know what? I've tried a few little things, little experiments in my life. I actually started to speak up a bit in meetings. I spoke earlier than what I usually would. And no one said I was a dickhead. So the problem we have with this change stuff, I reckon, is we try and change really quickly. Let's do it all at once. Let's fucking run a marathon in a month's time.
Yeah.
No, run a marathon in 6 to 12 months' time, and then just do little experiments along the way that proves that your cognitive immune system isn't your controller. It is something there to let you know every now and again that there's challenges in life, but don't be beholden to the fucker.
I reckon better than kind of saying to ourselves, what do I want to be or do or change? I reckon maybe a better thing is maybe ask ourselves, what has been the benefit to where I've landed now? What has been the benefit to me gaining X amount of weight? What has been the benefit for me to drink alcohol every day? What has been the benefit to me overworking and never being able to relax? Because once we understand the benefit, only then can we heal the thing. There's one thing to do the work in inverted commas, but if we don't heal the thing, if we don't find out the reason that's underneath why we've landed where we landed, then the work that looks good and shiny on the outside is going to bring us undone. I mentioned it to Bobby on a podcast yesterday. It's like the marathon runner that eats clean, doesn't drink, and has a heart attack at bloody 40, and everyone's like, but he's so healthy. It's like, yeah, because he's probably got childhood trauma, he's got addiction, he's coping the best he can, and on the outside it looks really good, but he hasn't healed the inner turmoil. Speaking of eating clean, you know how we every now and again we confess to stuff? Yeah. What have you done? Here we go. What have you done? Alison's away at the moment. She's gone on a girls' weekend on a Thursday. Let's fucking work that out. The rest of the girls left on Wednesday. It was a girls' weekend. Like, that's not a fucking weekend. That's a 5-day girls piss up in the wineries in northeast Victoria. I'm sitting at home last night, and I had some little chicken strips left there. So I just cooked them up and I ate them, and I'm like,
Yeah, no, that was nice, but that wasn't enough. And then I got rid of the Uber Eats app off my phone, but it's easy to go back and get it again. Craig Harper, don't listen to this. I went to, and I Googled up like lollies and shit like that and ice cream, and I got the Ascot Vale Foodery, the Ampol Foodery, and 1.2 litre container of ice cream that's got dairy milk chocolate flakes through it and a packet of Darryl Lee chocolate coated bullets.
Did you give it what for?
I ate the whole fucking tub of ice cream.
Back in January or whenever I had COVID, I did the same thing, and I got on that app because I had to buy some groceries, and I ended up buying a tub of, do you know you can get raw cookie dough in a tub?
Jesus, no, I didn't.
Yeah, well,
you shouldn't have told me that.
Yeah, you can. You're welcome.
I know what I'm doing tonight.
And when Alison gets home, you just have to look at her and go, yeah, but Alison, you've got to understand, what was the benefit to me exhibiting these behaviours? I was suffering abandonment syndrome. There was
a benefit to it. It made me feel good. Particularly when I said to myself, surely you can't have a fucking third bowl. But the benefit was that I was able to beat that negative story and achieve my goal of eating the whole container of ice cream and then half of the licorice bullets in one go.
I had Dr. Ben Bickman on the show recently, and he's amazing, and he's like a leader in metabolic health. But we had a similar conversation where we talked about, I said, I'm like that with chocolate. I said, when I had a real job, I used to get my employer to hide blocks of, I'd take him in at the start of the week, 2 blocks of old gold. I go, can you hide this and give me no more than 2 full rows a day? And he actually hid that chocolate. Because I would go, they'd go out for lunch and it would be on. I'd spend the whole hour just ripping the place apart. I'll find that bloody chocolate. And he hid it in the foam paneling. He'd take the ceiling out and he'd hidden it in the ceiling.
Did you find it?
Yeah, I found it. Oh, no, I didn't find it in the ceiling. I found it in other places. And in that particular time, he showed me where he'd hidden it.
I think it's important that, because some people might look up to us and go, oh, look at them. They do the right thing. And what is the right thing to start with? But I think it's important at times that we let people know that we're pretty human as well. That
and Ben
I don't know
Bickman
what
said
tonight
the same
means.
thing.
Like Alison's away again tonight. She gets back tomorrow. So I don't know. I've got the 4 dogs here and they might keep me company, but they were wanting some ice cream as well. They weren't getting any because I was sort of hoarding it.
Like, I'm not sharing.
Like they did to me when I growl at them if they come near me to try and eat my ice cream. But guess what? I woke up about 3 o'clock this morning and I'm like, oh, fuck, I don't feel that good.
Yeah. The bonus is like, because I train a lot and when I don't beat myself up on it because when I make those choices, I'm like, well, hang on, what's the rest of your diet like? 80-20 rule? No, you're pretty bloody impeccable. And you train a lot, so this is a one-off. It's very rare that you do it. But the thing that I'm conscious of is the struggle. So I know if I do that of an evening, the next day my hunger is more potent. It's a struggle for me. So this can potentially, you have to be extra strong tomorrow. So it's not a one-moment decision. It's actually a decision that will have repercussions that'll niggle at you a bit, and it's going to be a little bit harder tomorrow. Do you still want to do it?
I like that because I am actually intermittent fasting and have been for 90 odd days now. And and last night, I didn't last night because it would have been 9:30 when that third bowl got served up to me, and maybe finished it by 9:33. So that was my ravenous appetite to eat it.
And were you hungrier this morning, straight up?
I was, but I've trained this morning and I've done my usual thing. I've had I did a active recovery, one day a week's active recovery, sauna, cold shower, and I haven't eaten yet.
Oh, beautiful.
So it's 20 to 2 on a Friday, the 28th of October, and I haven't eaten yet. And I felt hungry this morning. But what I've gone for these days is I try and drink a couple of litres of coconut water in the morning now before I get to eat.
Is that breaking your fast? How many litres?
No, you're allowed to drink coconut water. You're allowed to drink.
Are you?
You're allowed to drink.
You sure?
Yeah, you're allowed to. Yeah, you've got to drink water. Fucking oath you are.
No, that's got calories. That's got sugar in it.
No, it hasn't. They say it's got nothing. It's got none of that shit in it.
I'm going to check that out.
Well, you better check it out for me because I'm thinking that I'm doing it right.
Black coffee will do you good.
I don't drink coffee.
Oh well. missing out.
I am.
Out.
8 years
If I get
since I've had a
a
coffee.
bit hungry, I'll have a black coffee just to stave that off. I forgot that I'd Googled before when you said about World Teachers' Day. There actually is a World Toilet Day. Do you know much about that?
Told
what
you.
is that all
Fucking
about?
oath I know what it's about.
And it's coming up. It's the 19th of November.
Because
so
I looked it up.
Shopping for an outfit.
You know what it is?
What?
Go and buy yourself just a toilet lid and wear it round for the day. It's all about creating. It's about hygiene, and some people don't actually get to use toilets, so they suffer and stuff. So that's what we'll. Because I looked up world days, and it was like every day there's all these different world days on. People listening should look it up because there's all sorts of days. There was Guinea Pig Appreciation Day, and they had to call it off because that's when the Queen died, so they couldn't have it was a bit like the Brownlow here. They had to call it off that week. They put a note out in the UK Guinea Pig Appreciation Day thing that they do. They couldn't do it.
Oh, my goodness.
What would you do to appreciate your guinea pigs? Thank you, guinea pigs, for multiplying. Like, we had guinea pigs when Zoe was young, our youngest one. She's now 25. And she put the wrong guinea pigs in the wrong cage together. And then we had lots of guinea pigs.
You're a village of guinea pigs.
Anyway, so there's days. So I reckon look up the days. What's your? Can you see? You can't Google. You can't see them there now, can you?
Well, no. Well, I just Googled the toilet day. What do I Google to find out what are the days?
Just say a list of world days, and you'll be surprised what will come up. Now, while we're talking about that, this is another topic I wanted to cover: outsourcing, because I've just outsourced the job to you.
Yeah, you have. Okay, this is a timely conversation because I'm just trying to do more of that, and it's very difficult.
So there you go. Have you found some?
Yeah. So what do we got? We got International Day of Human Fraternity, International Day of Zero Tolerance of Female Genital Mutilation.
Oh,
World Seagrass Day.
Yep.
World Wildlife Day. International Day to Combat. I like that one. International Day of Happiness. That's another.
Can you see them on? Can you actually see the actual dates there as well? Like, can you see a date and what day it is?
Yep.
Can
you want to know what's coming
November
up?
the 16th.
November the 16th. World Philosophy Day.
Is that the only one that's on there?
Yep.
That's good. That's my
number 7. Is that your birthday?
It's my wedding anniversary, so I better be very philosophical on that day if it's World Philosophy
what's happening
Day.
On my birthday? Nothing, but the day after my birthday is World Tuna Day.
When is your birthday, by the way?
The 1st of May. May Day. Tiffanee Cook's coming.
What about 15th of February?
15th of February is nothing's happening on that day.
Oh no! What about around that? Anything around it?
You got the 13th day, the 13th World Radio Day.
Wow.
And then at the 20th, you've got World Day of Social Justice.
Right. Excellent. So let's talk about outsourcing.
Okay.
So, I've been doing this now for 8 years. So I've just had my 8-year anniversary last couple of weeks ago, I think, and it really feels like it. I've been outsourcing for about 5 years now, but it really feels like it's speeding up. I've just outsourced stuff again this week, which I would cling on to so tightly, even up to 12 months ago. And it's like, you don't have time to do it.
I'm ready for your wisdom here because I talked about this with Harps this morning. I'm really struggling with it.
So I look at it in a few ways. There's 168 hours in the week, and I think at times, and not as much these days, I try to make that 185 hours, and it doesn't fucking work after a while. It starts to impact on a few things, including self, family, relationships, a whole lot of stuff. So you can't have more hours was one of the things that came to mind for me. Something else that came to mind for me was that, you know what, mate, you tell people that you do what you're bloody great at and leave the other stuff for other people and let go a bit. So there was the letting go, which is more of an adaptive change. It was a changing my beliefs and behaviors. There's a commercial side to it, that if my time per hour is worth X, Why am I doing things that someone else can do for me that are worth why? And that might be a small gap between X and Y, or it might be a large gap between X and Y. So go and do that. And that's why I think things like HelloFresh and, Muscle Chef and all these things are doing quite well now, because I think people are starting to wake up to the fact that they don't have to be everything. They don't have to be Tiff, the great podcaster, who then trains a heap of people and then does other bits and pieces and cooks a meal and then looks after the cat and then.
Well, actually, do all of that. So
I know you do.
I'd like to do less of it.
So what's the story in your mind then, Tiffanee Cook, that is telling you that you need to hang on to stuff?
Trust and control, and they're two big things. They come out in the boxing ring, they come out in my life, and I see them there. And it's funny, with this conversation, I've just, a year ago, I put out there that I was getting a VA to do some stuff, and I tinkered around and didn't really on board that. And then I've used people to help me edit, and I've gone, I'm going to definitely have 2 of my 4 episodes a week, which is now 5. I'm going to at least get 2 of them a week done by someone else, and then I just did it for 2 weeks, and I was like, I'll just do it. And in the middle of these decisions, there's the me that goes at, like you said before, that dollar value. It's like, if someone come to me and asked me to do that, would I do that for that dollar value? Hell no. And also, if there was a job going for that, even if it was really well paid, do I think I'm good enough at it to apply for a job with someone else doing that? And it would be like, no, not really. So why? Those two things, that doesn't make sense. I've just onboarded a wonderful VA at the moment to help me, somebody I know, starting to do a little bit of stuff. And this is the level of my control freakishness. She was like, we're going to have a look at the website. We're going to look at start to make some little tweaks. She made this tiny little tweak the other day to my website, and I went in and looked. And then I spent 2 or 3 hours changing the whole thing. Changed the whole thing, right? And I was like, you gotta learn some better skills.
I think it's whether it's interesting whether I don't know that it's skills. I think this isn't you learning a technical skill unless you want to technically get better at doing websites. This is you stepping into turning this into an adaptive challenge, which is I actually need to change and challenge my beliefs and my behaviors. Yes. My belief that I am the person that is the best at doing this could be a belief, therefore I'm going to do it, or that maybe other people won't like what they see. Like my sister, a lot of my stuff's drawing. It's all turning into drawings now. And basically my website will change shortly where it'll be fucking cartoon Mark. It's not going to be any of the pictures of, consultant with his fucking thumb on his chin doing the consultant look into the distance like he's thinking about being a thought leader. It's going to be more of, here's Mark with this big fucking ear-to-ear grin, which it is. That's how she's drawn it, because you've got this fucking big ear-to-ear grin, and they're all cartoons now and drawings.
Yeah,
they're not cartoons.
I love your stuff. I love it.
Now, Tony, my sister, is like, this is more you. And you know what I just go, that's cool. Go for it. Go and do it. I've just outsourced today, which horrifies me, but I know it's going to be good. For the next period of time, I'm outsourcing a lot of stuff you'll see on Insta and whatnot is being outsourced to a brilliant lady in Bulgaria.
Yeah, right.
And she's going to create some content and do some other really clever things for me for the next few months. And I'm actually I'm a little bit sad because I love doing my own stuff, and I will still put a few things up here and there, but she's bloody good at what she does. So she's going to do that. And that allows me to focus on the work that I love doing, which has been in the room, and also now the focus on the academy that just, launches next month. I haven't got the time to fuck around doing work that's really important, but can be done by someone in a quarter of the time and at better quality and still at a reasonable premium. But I'm happy to pay the premium if I get good work. Yeah.
Well, I feel like when we have this conversation, I am reflecting our conversation of before, which I'm going, okay, Tiffanee Cook, what is the benefit of you holding on to this shit? Because also it makes me like the amount of times I'm resentful at myself for holding myself back, because I'm like, there's been times where I've had too much on that my creativity suffers, and I'm just getting to a space where that's coming back because I've alleviated a bit of mental bandwidth. But there's been times where I'm like, well, I know I'm not able to, I don't have any downtime to let my mind, like those walks, to let that happen and let things simmer and do the stuff I love. When I did start to hand a small, like I gave Lou a handful of stuff, and immediately what I recognised was some of the tasks I was doing that I was like, I don't want to do this. I only want to do the things that I'm really excellent at. But when I stopped doing the things that that I'm just doing because I'm a control freak, that don't actually fill my cup, when I stop that, then I know when I've got two hands free to go grab stuff, bloody hell, I'll be able to grab hold of some great opportunities and create them.
You know what? I'm going to take you through the immunity to change process at some stage. We should actually fucking do it as a pod. We should do it as a podcast, because seriously, but because I can already hear your cognitive immune system and what it's saying to you, and I think you can hear it as well.
Yeah.
But it's really, really strong on this particular thing, and there will be a reason for it. And I've had some of that myself, but now I'm at the stage of I'm now Cartoon Mark, who's not going to be doing a lot of his socials, and I'm not even like, fuck, what's going to happen? Because I try and trust implicitly. It's not easy, but it's like I just trust that these people have good intention to do good work, and they won't fuck my brand up.
Yep.
And I wonder, people talk about playing the small game. I do know, I always thought with my dad that he was a builder in Mildura, and I thought he could have been bigger. And I did think at times, and I think nowadays, that what was it with him that he decided not to become really big? Was he scared of something? Was he scared of giving stuff up? Was he scared of putting more people on because the quality of the build mightn't have been what it was, or what he wanted it to be? And I sometimes think about that myself. I think that held me back in maybe the first 5 or 6 years of doing this. And now I'm like, fuck it. It's not about success and I have these chats with harps. It's not about the outward success, but it's about what are you capable of doing, Mark, that you are stepping away from playing a small game by hanging on to shit.
Do you know what I reckon? This popped into my head before, and as you were talking then, but what I think, and this comes out of kind of my more recent therapeutic journey, is I have become aware of a role-playing Tiff, and who do I become under the influence of another? And that has not always been in my awareness, and I've paid very big consequences in the past for it. And in the more recent times, less consequences, but a lot of friction and a lot of mental and emotional disarray in the middle of, and noticing there's a change in who I become around this. What's the cause of that? So I guess there's an underlying fear of what will I allow happen? Who will I allow myself to become? How small will I become if someone else takes the reins and bends and twists and shapes me into something? As you
were talking then, like the word that was coming to the front of my mind for what you were explaining was fear of loss of identity was one thing, which is a big one in immunity to change. People are like, this is who I am. This is what I'm known as and for and by, and you want me to give some of that up? And I was like, fucking oath I do, because what you want to do in your goal and what's holding you back is this fear. And again, this is a Marty Linskyism. I've talked about Marty before. We fear loss much more than we value gain, because we're a survival species. So your fear of whatever it is will be off the charts. Even though you go back to what's the benefit of me outsourcing, the strength in the noise of your cognitive immune system drowns out the benefit. So it goes fear this, loss of identity, loss of control, fucking could be loss of financial capability to earn because I've had to spend that money. And what if nothing comes? It's a bit like the academy I built. Fuck, it's cost me some money, Tiff. And I'm like, what if I build it and no one turns up? I keep hearing that, but people have turned up already. But I'm going, fuck, but more people need to turn up. And I'm like, well, why do they need to turn up? Like, fucking settle down, mate. Settle down, cognitive immune system. Don't come and knock on my door. You know when he does? He turns up here at my front door. It's a he, my one. He's a fucker. And things are going well for me. I might have just done a really good coaching session or something. And he knocks on the door and I open the door and I go, fucking not you again. He goes, just wanted to remind you of something.
Yeah.
Don't you try and get too big because bad things will happen to you. Yeah. And I go, oh, fuck. All right, I better go back and shrink. Go back and shrink.
One of the things for me in the earlier days was this, I think this belief around connection and friendship / relationship on any level, that comes at a cost, and it comes at a cost of of no boundaries and giving away things, doing what you don't want to do, being who you don't want to be, and because that happened to me at such a young age, that it was a role that you disassociate and you slip into it. And, you know, for a long time with harps, and I'm overcoming it now, but I would find myself I podcast here, and then I would get on a podcast with harps, and I'd grow down, and I'd be this child with no confidence and like this. And I felt this childlikeness inside, and it was like, why do I do that?
And what's the answer? What's the answer to that?
Because
why do you do it?
I think a power imbalance, a masculine energy, someone I respect, someone I want to have relationship with on equal grounds, but there's that child part of me that goes, well, with relationship comes very harsh sacrifice, and you don't get to have boundaries, and you don't get to, it's not about you, you don't matter, and blah blah blah. So there's this accommodating anything, and so that happens unconsciously. So it's getting aware of it, and then starting to learn to shift it.
And how many humans have actually gone up to Craig Harper and said, I'm going to be working for you with you one day? Fucking maybe one.
Yeah.
Who was that person?
The blessing with him is in, like, I don't think for me, there's never been a person on this planet that could have held the ground that he held with me and allowed me to work through that. There's never been a safer, more selfless, understanding person. You know, I've learned difficult conversations. I've learned to sit in hard emotions. I've learned that people aren't just going to fuck off. No. Like, that it's okay to not have your shit together.
So it's something for your listeners to think about here too, and mine, because I'm going to co-share this one. I just told you that now. Can I co-share this one? Yeah, because I fucking always run out. I run out so often. But like, people got to start to think that, what is their Craig Harper Tiff moment? Like, is there something that you want to do, like you did? And I'm sure you're shitting yourself when you did it. I want to be working with you one day and whatnot. However that story went, and you are. And you're brilliant at what you do, but imagine if you didn't. Like, and how many people don't? How many people listen to this are just like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't ring Tiff up. I can't reach out to her. She's fucking famous. Or I was like that with Harps. When I reach out to Harps, I'm like, Jesus, I don't even think this guy's going to even respond. He responds and he's like, happy days. And then I'm shitting myself doing the potty. And now it's like, you know, he sends me a message on Saturday going, fuck, mate, I've got it wrong here. I'm in Brisbane today. And I said, well, shit, I'm in Mildura and I'm not home yet. So, and then we decided the podcast at 4:30 that day. Now, I would never have done that 12 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just get brave by the step, I reckon. You get braver and you do stuff. And but I reckon we should do an episode where we pull you apart via the cognitive immune system.
I would like to do that, Mark.
That'd be cool. It'll take us. It might be a 2-part series.
Yeah.
But it'll be cool.
I'm excited. My hand is raised for that one. Look, mate, I've had my psychotherapist on 3 times, bloody picking my apart. There's nothing you can throw at me.
Oh no, you'll be fine. You'll it gets you. It'll get to you, but you'll be okay, because it'll yeah, it's a fucker of a thing. Let me tell you.
I love doing the work. Like I love, and like this podcast has been a blessing for me because it's allowed me to. I don't know if I would have. I was thinking about Dr. Bill right the other day, and this therapeutic relationship we have, and where it's. And I was like, no other therapist has ever had that relationship with me, and I don't think I would have been able to build it if I hadn't have just had him on as a guest.
Yep.
So there was this, like that role playing in inverted commas that I talked about, that didn't get to be there with our first two therapy sessions that were bloody masters podcasts. And when I had an actual therapy session with him, the first thing I said is, hey doc, I'm going to pretend this is a podcast because that works for me, and I don't want to lose accessing my ability to be a bit more pragmatic.
Yep.
You know, sometimes there's some sessions where all he does is count the times that I say, I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know, like a 4-year-old.
Here's something you might try. Something you might try. If your listeners won't see this, but behind me is I drew my first 3 years.
Oh, I was wondering what that was. Okay.
And that's what it is. And it's basically like I've got a little birth notice. Congratulations on the safe arrival of marklebusque.com. And then it goes, what happens now? I started writing a book, and then this happened. The struggle. Can I do this? Have I got what it takes? I'm not good enough. Who are you kidding? Give up. Then tried to be fucking everything to everybody to try and do it all myself. The first 18 months to 2 years is an absolute fucking disaster of a story. And I've really got to do now the next 5 years, because I think this would be really useful for anyone to go look at the incremental development over that period of time, rather than I'm not a fucking overnight success, and I'm not even a success. I'm just a human. But I reckon that'd be a great activity for people to do, is to look at that. And I remember there's one thing here. It said, September 2016. So we're talking 2 years down. Start to believe I can do this. I'm good enough. There's a go sign there. There was a fucking big stop sign before that for 2 years, which created all sorts of horrible thoughts in my head.
Wow. Look at
So
you,
there you go.
2017 book launch, February 2017, sold in 13 countries. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's all right, eh?
It's amazing.
Not bad for a fucking bogan.
That's why I like you, Mark.
Oh, thank you.
Swayze.
Well,
that's why I like you, Swayze.
Sway. So listen, you'll find the photo, of course. You'll be able to find the photo there somewhere, because I think I've tried to do a couple of those ones.
I've actually got one printed.
Wow.
I'm printed on my bedroom wall.
You're not like Seinfeld when old crazy Joe Davola had Ali's bloody photos all over his wall as you walk in. Please don't say that you're doing that. Put them on your cat scratching pole for your cat or something. That'll be the go.
Oh, Mark, this has been great. This has been a pleasure.
Have we started recording? Is this actually a podcast? Have we started recording?
Are you ready to start? We'll start now.
Yeah, no, I reckon we're done. Listen, can I just quickly blow a bit of smoke as well? Is that all right?
Yeah.
First of all, your backside, you're doing fucking great work. So keep doing it and start outsourcing some shit. And I did want to say, just want to let people know, have a look at the Human Manager Academy. I am very proud of it. It's taken me 16 months to build with a great company, but it's like a 2-hour self-paced look at yourself and look at, if you're a manager, look at how you manage people. And it's pretty damn good. So I might give you a little link to that. There's a bit of a little link that people can look at if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
But I don't often ask for that, but I'm pretty stoked about what's been built.
It's pretty epic from what I've seen. So
all right. Well, I might send you a little link. You can go in and do a bit of work, and I'll see. I'll add a unit called "Fucking Outsource Now."
That's
Thanks,
the unit
Tiff.
I'll need to go to. Thanks, Mark. Hey, thanks everyone.